Hi, I'm Darlene Carman, and welcome to the show. Kevin DeBella, Jean Sanchez, and 2 other volunteers with San Jose Calvary Chapel have just returned from a 10-day mission to Entebbe, Uganda, to build a dock. They will share their enlightening experience along with a video that will bring a smile to your heart. Kevin, this was like your first trip.
Yes, it was. First trip.
And Jean, this is your 4th time going to this farm that's a little bit outside the city. And this farm has been like 12 years in the making. Wow. So how did it get its start?
Well, it started with Pastor Craig from our church 12 years ago with a plan to build a church somewhere and purchase some property. They found God kind of opened up the opportunity for 2.5 acres down by Lake Victoria's shoreline. And it was not their first choice. It was really a refuge, and it was like a dump. And there was a lot of prostitution, drugs, and it was one of the highest density areas in Entebbe at the time, and it was real forested. So they ended up having to clear the property, and they put up a tent, a structure. I think they had church there for a couple years.
They did.
A couple years in one tent?
Yes.
And just a tent, yeah.
Wow.
That was the beginning of the church.
Wow. And what kind of population are we talking about? Who was living there? Who was on the property at the time?
I think it was just a lot of, you know, the congestion, probably the poorest of the poor. They had mostly kids. A lot of kids were there. Parents were not available. They passed away from AIDS.
And it was a very, very, a lot of poverty there that the children are being raised around. And because of a lot of them, their fathers have abandoned them, and they were unable to provide for their family. And so they were left to the mothers to take care of them. And so Pastor Craig had a vision of building a church there and creating a school as well. So it really opened up an opportunity for people to come together there to experience, you know, God's love there, and to give them a sense of worth, of security there that the kids so desperately needed. So Pastor had a vision. He came in and started a church and began the growing process there. And
so 12 years ago. So how did it get the momentum to get where it was? So did people come right away, or I imagine it took quite a while to get like volunteers to come, right?
It was amazing with the kids starting out, the majority of the congregation, how fast it grew, because 2 years later they had already had a plan to actually build a permanent structure. And this permanent structure that they were having their groundbreaking ceremony, that's when the local chairman came and was given a speech, and he was talking about how much had changed. They cleaned the area up. It went from, you know, a dump to now a church. So just 2 years later, they actually had a building, and they were celebrating opening up the church at that time. And it just kept growing, and they went on to do a school.
So when you were there 4 years ago, you started, were you still in a tent 4 years ago?
The first time that we went as a group of 8 men, we came, and we actually had to live in tents for the 2 weeks we were there. And then as it began to grow, buildings were starting to be constructed. We were able to be in these buildings called bungalows. And so from there, it continued to grow into other structures. So more people were able to come to experience, you know, what God has been doing in that country there in Entebbe on the farm. And it really is an amazing, amazing sight to see as far as how far it's come since that time for since I've been there.
We have a video, we'll see it in a little bit.
Yes.
But so you pretty much know what to expect when you go there, when you visit there now. But like, especially you being your first time, is there anything that surprised you, anything about the circumstances or about the area, the place that surprised you?
One of the things that surprised me, Uganda, the whole country, they have one international airport, and that's in Entebbe. And I'm thinking, wow, this is a big international airport, the UN's there. We get in there, and it's really pretty small. They picked us up in cars, and a lot of the roadway to get to where the church was mostly dirt road. You know, they had a little highway that was being constructed. Highway? Yeah, well, yeah, it's kind of like an expressway.
Kind of like a frontage road, yes. Kind of like a frontage road.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, and so there was a lot of motorcycles going all over, and when we got to the now, which is the developed church property, it has a medical center there, and it has a coffee shop, and it has classrooms now, and we got on a boat and went over across the lake to the farm area. That is where Gene was talking about earlier about we slept in bungalows now.
Yes.
So this started out as a dump. Was there anything else on the beginnings of this property?
Well, basically, they used that property to, it was like a fishing outlet. They used to create food for the families. They would fish and raise, you know, they have goats. They have very few steer, but, you know, a lot of chickens and things like that, and pigs. So they have to, you know, they salvage the property. You know, again, we're talking about a property that was used back in the day as a killing field. They were actually killing people and burying them there. And so, you know, it has become from evil to doing good there, and it's just an amazing thing to see how God has really changed that place of that part of that town there. Yeah, and so people have been coming in, and it's really been growing quite a bit. So, yeah, it's very gratifying to see.
So how often does the group go there to help out? Is this like year round, or is it once a year?
It's really not on a time schedule, but for instance, when the four of us adults went there, we already had 3 young people there from our church for 6 months. So there's
Already working full time
and serving. Yeah, what they do is they actually, these young American children are going and teaching school. Every day they'll take the boat from the farm over to the church's property, which has the school, and they can control, these young adults can control a classroom of 40 kids. It's quite amazing, yeah.
And it's a one-year program for these young interns that come. They go to Montana. They spend 6 months there preparing to come to Uganda, and to learn you know, the basic fundamentals of what service is all about. And so they come over to Uganda and they begin to you know, give their heart and to serve and to you know, give back. So it's really quite a experience to see young people give their time, their life for a main purpose, for one purpose, you know, and that's to help the people there, and also for them as an individual to grow in their faith. So it's quite encouraging to me to see that as young kids that want to just separate themselves from having so much, but go into a country that has very little. So it's very gratifying.
Yeah.
There was 20 people, 20 young adults that were there, and they were from ages 17 to 25. So
wow.
They were serving, and to watch these American kids serve was, like Gene says, a real blessing to us.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? We have a video to see, and it shows the way it is now. And so when we're looking at this video, Kevin or Gene, probably Kevin, will talk about it and narrate what we're seeing.
Okay.
I think, yeah.
There's the 4 young men, they called us, who we were serving. And this is when we would get together with everybody, and we'd have meals together of the beauty over the lake. That was our friend Bonica. He was showing me how you climb up and get jackfruit. He was just a real sweet guy. And then he picked some coffee beans for me. This is the beginning of the dock restoration. We put down the forms and then went from there. The sunsets sunrises in the morning were just beautiful. That's some of the kids that were.
It looks like a long dock. Is that pretty long?
It's pretty long. It's a nice long dock. It's a lot of wood we were sawing. Had some interesting plants there that would curl
The
up.
wood came from on the property?
Not on the property, but it definitely from Africa. It's
Okay.
definitely a different type of wood. My friends helping us out when we were painting, helping Gene paint.
Yeah.
He's cute.
They loved to help us scrape and do different things.
Oh, so pretty.
And a lot of birds, beautiful birds. And this is what they go back and forth every day. They get on the boat and they go teach school and come back, and they serve all day. In the morning, I'd catch the fishermen, and they would wave to me and give me a greeting. That's very important. This is a groundbreaking ceremony for there's going to be now, this would be from the tent to the regular sanctuary now to the, going to be the new sanctuary they're going to have. It's going to be multi-level.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
That was the zoo that we went to go visit. Yeah.
And the ladies were helping us carry some wood at times. Jackfruit.
Jackfruit.
Is that good?
Excellent, sweet,
Yeah,
very sweet.
never had that.
And that we didn't know what it was. The kids were eating it in the village there, so we got a picture of it. And they carry, the kids go get water every day. It looked like they're like 5 years old carrying water buckets for their family. Gene painting. We did have some power tools.
And they're actually trying to get a solar production going over there, so they can have their own energy and power there. So that's in the works.
Right.
That's where we ate. We ate there, and that was our tables where we had our meals.
Pastor Deos and
They're,
Pastor
I'm
Isaac.
rolling ceilings.
Yeah.
And what are you painting here?
I'm painting a pastor's home there. They're preparing it for a pastor there and his family. So
And he had daily helpers coming over helping you. They would take the boat ride over from Entebbe and help us out.
How long is the boat ride?
About 15, 20 minutes. Yeah. You're pretty close to the equator, so it's real hot.
they have no winters there. It's always hot.
Oh.
Yeah. So.
That's the finished result there. They had to pull the forms off later, but the engineer that came out said that they wanted to cure for 2 weeks before they pulled the side forms off. But there it is. In Entebbe at night, we would look out over the water, and on the other side, the lights are from Entebbe.
So you have inspectors that have to examine the dock.
And no safety gear, no permits, none of that.
Ooh.
And there's our boat ride going across.
Yeah.
Those are fish. They little fish.
Kids from the school. They play football, they call it. That's one of the shops that's outside the church there.
Aw, cute.
And we went around town and went to some of the different
Shops.
and see a lot of critters around there.
That was the iguana that we saw the last day, Kevin.
Oh, yeah.
Before we got on the flight.
That's Pastor Isaac. He's the head pastor of the church there now. This is a restaurant and pastor and his wife. And beautiful views of the lake.
Yeah, nice.
And that's the morning, that's my friend. In the morning I would say hi to him. He's fishing, he puts his net out every day and catches the local fish.
Wow. That's really something.
Yeah.
I love the variety in that video. It's really, really nice. And you're quite a photographer. This
Thank
is
you.
your work behind us over here.
Yes,
What's the
yes.
story on this?
So every morning I told Jean, hey, when I look out the window, I can't I can't stay in bed because of these beautiful sunrises. So I jump out and I got my camera and get my clothes on and I run out there, and these guys were out there fishing every morning, and I'd say hi to them. And I like this one here because he's kind of shows that, you know, he's a man and he's working hard, and you know, he's fishing every morning.
That's beautiful. And
Yeah.
this one over here, now this is sunset?
No,
I'm guessing?
this is in the morning.
This is in the morning.
Believe it or
Whoops.
not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
It's amazing
the colors, the color change. I
Yeah.
didn't do anything with filters. That's all natural, and
Wow.
you know,
Both sunrise. That's just, I mean, it's beautiful.
Pretty
So
amazing.
your photography is, I don't know how you had time to do all this. I mean, you know, you're doing the video and you're doing the camera work. I imagine there was a lot of people taking pictures, right?
not really. No. Well, you know what? We actually had some of the guys from the tech team at the church. They took the boat over. They took some legitimate. You know, they have some. You know, actual cameras. This is just an iPhone I was using. So.
And
Actually,
it works,
yeah.
hey, whatever works. Was there any etiquette rules that you had to follow?
Interesting thing was they wouldn't let us dig.
Couldn't dig.
We were going to dig the holes for the solar panel structure, and no, we'll get some younger people to do it. Well, of course, they didn't want to imply that we were old because they already called us young, strong men. So,
So we're going to serve them, serve there, but they end up serving us.
There's
So
such a- yeah.
it's kind of like a double blessing for each
that's
one of
funny.
us. So
Yeah,
it's
they're
just
amazing.
it's really, you know, very caring, loving people, and there's just so much joy and peace that they have there.
So you stand around twiddling your thumbs while they're doing the digging, or
Well,
do you
no,
look busy?
they just don't like to see us come from our country there to work as hard. I don't know. They just, it's part of who they are there. They're very hard-working people. Yeah. So. Yeah.
Now, I understand that you had to like bring some of your tools. I mean, there's no stores to go buy a lot of the stuff, and even, well, there's no energy.
yes.
So how do you do that? How do you bring your tools and
Well, you're able to bring 3 types of luggage. You know, one carry-on and 2
Yeah.
suitcases with
Yeah.
clothes. And so I've learned through the past when I've been there before that you need to take your own brushes, your own tape, things like that. That will make the job, you know, go much smoother for you, and then show them, you know, a different way of how to prepare, you know, your project, and how the people in our country work with the tools that we have. And then, you know, what we like to do is, you know, before we leave, we love to leave the tools that we've taken and give them to them, so they can have the opportunity to be blessed with what we've been given in our country. And it really makes a difference to them. And so it's.
One of the other guys, Leonard, that was with us, he's a contractor, and he had a nice big tape measure, and the African guys had their own tape measure, which it came apart, and if you've ever seen the inside of a tape measure, they don't go back together very well. It was all over it. But he was determined to put it together, and Leonard goes, "Brother, you get to have mine when I leave," and he's like, wow, he couldn't believe it. And so Leonard bought some specific tools, you know, drills and tape measures and hammers and different things to bless them with. And
where's
really-
Orchard Supply when we need them?
yes, that's right.
Well, you know, traveling really opens your eyes, and you see the way other people live and different routines and so forth. It's really an eye-opener, but not everybody gets fortunate enough to get to go to Africa.
Right.
So what did you learn from this experience, totally, like comparing it to where you live here, just in general? What did you experience? What did you learn?
I learned you have to have patience because we as Americans, we get caught up in, hey, we just had our breakfast, we're ready to go, we want to go to work. There's a lot more preparation, getting the materials from across the water over. Things break, hand tools take longer, so the feeling of accomplishment, so you had to have more patience and flexibility, but the love that you have with people, that really comes back. You know, we kind of miss that in this country where we're really fast. You know, we're on Facebook, we text, we don't have time to sit down like we're sitting down right now and having a conversation. We had a lot of FaceTime. We had a lot of time, fellowship time with our brothers and sisters in Christ in Africa.
And you know, time is always of essence between, you know, especially here in this country where it's all about work and have to go, and productivity. And so there, it's so much laid back there. You know, you get done what you can get done, and then there's another day. So if things don't get done in that time frame, then but it's bonding with people. It's really bonding with people, getting to know each other, and just having some fellowship with them, and just reaching out to them, and that means a lot to them.
So you don't take breaks?
No, we took breaks.
Yeah, we took. Yeah,
we were on a little different schedule.
Formal, right?
Well, the Americans were much more in the morning we eat, and then noon we eat, and then in the dinner time we eat. We were pretty consistent, but the guys that would come over and help us with the dock, the tradesmen, they may sleep there that night, and they may start earlier. They may if they stay in that night, they may stay later, or sometimes they would come over. If they didn't sleep that night, they would come over real late, and so we wouldn't see them till maybe 2 hours before we're getting ready to break for lunch. So time, there's African time and there's American time. There is a difference.
Yeah.
And then they had 3 just wonderful young ladies to come over and cook for us every day from Entebbe. So they would stay there and donate and just fellowship and create meals for us. And it was very, they were. It was a real blessing to see their heart, to do that for us. And they cleaned, they washed clothes, whatever. It was just there's the heart were open to serve. So
you bought a lot of items. Well, not a lot, but you bought a few items there. But yet you came home with what happened there? Because your luggage was
right. My brothers, when we were having our meeting before we ever went there, said, "You're going to come back light," and I didn't know what they meant. Come back light. Yeah. Right. Anytime we go, we come back light. You're going to come back light. I didn't know what they meant. So what that means is you pack up a lot of stuff. We packed up a guitar. We left the guitar there, so we didn't have to carry that back. We packed up
things
a lot
for the
of
ministry,
children's books, colored crayons.
Yeah.
I had a whole suitcase that Jean was like, "Oh, brother, thank you." And I opened my empty suitcase up, and we packed it full, and we left it all there. Sandy gave us, my wife, some shirts and T-shirts and different things, and my shoes. I left my shoes. One of his painters needed some shoes, and
you left your shoes, extra shoes.
Yes,
extra shoes.
yes.
Whoa.
Well, they had paint on them, and I told him, "You're going to help Jean paint, so you can use my shoes, and you can have them when I'm done." And he went home, he cleaned them up, and those are his dress shoes now. So he didn't want to paint in them. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, you did buy a few things. You did buy these beautiful baskets, all handmade, right?
Yes.
Beautiful,
yes, they are.
beautiful baskets. Wow. And these are.
And that's how the people make their finances, their money there. Especially for tourists, people that go there. you know, so.
Really nice. And then this painting here, this painting is really nice.
Yes.
Somebody did that there.
Yes.
So you came home with, I'm sure, some necklaces and things like that, and
Yes.
this beautiful giraffe. So, but you still left a lot there, so you came home light. That's kind of neat.
Yes.
What do you foresee in the future, 5 years down the line or 10 years down the line? We only have a couple minutes, but what do you see?
Well, one of the things, a lot of the young men that were serving, they're 25 years old. That means they probably were some of the young kids that first started at the church. So now they're serving. So I see generation after generation. I think it's in Isaiah 58, where the foundations were formed back 13 years ago, and now you have generation after generation that's building on this foundation.
Do you think it's going to spread?
Yes.
To other areas?
Yeah,
Do you?
because the farm is an extension of the church on the mainland, and then up on the hill from the farm is another church and the pastor's house, and then the village wants what do they want, a football field, they call it. Basically, we call it a soccer field.
Soccer field.
I was thinking it was soccer, and I thought,
Yeah,
oh, I
it's a
better.
soccer field.
Yeah.
Okay.
They'll correct you if you say soccer. They'll call it football.
Oh, I see. So you see all this happening in the future. Well, I'm hoping that you'll continue with your work, and 12 years, I'd like to see what's going on. I really see with your talents, I see that you could actually make a really nice documentary out of this in the future if you keep going back and collecting. There's such a great story here, and I know that a lot of people would love to see it.
Yes.
So
Thank you.
I just thank you for sharing this.
Thank
I
you for
loved
having
your
us.
video. I love your work.
Thank you for
And I
having us.
love what you're doing, your real work, what you're doing. So I want to thank you so much for being here.
Thank
And I
you.
want to thank you for watching the show. And watch again.